Hello, everybody. Welcome to Duncan and Doonkeen. We are your host, Drew Duncan. And, of course, with me is Time Doonkeen. Huge show to get to today, guys. Do not forget that we are on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and YouTube, all at Duncan and Doonkeen. And do not forget that we are wherever you are listening to podcasts. We are on iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, wherever you are listening to podcasts. We are there. Simply take a device to play Duncan and Doonkeen. Like I made mention of, plenty to get to today. Well, obviously, we're going to be talking a little Bruce Lee and B. Water. We're going to be discussing UFC 250, UFC 251. We're going to be talking about Conor McGregor and his retirement. We're also going to be discussing the Floyd Mayweather aspect. A lot of people are starting to want money, including NFL players like Dalvin Cook. MLB, they still haven't come up with what they're going to do yet during their negotiation. Plenty to get to, as I made mention of.
I'm doing great.
First thing is
it's
first
been a
time.
day.
How are you doing?
Summertime almost seems back to normal. People were swimming. I didn't see a mask in sight. It's a good day.
Nice. As you know, I was covering the fights this weekend in Abilene. That was a hell of a deal. Oh, man. I'm telling you, I think I did 10 interviews that day on Saturday. And then, well, 6 of them were for us, obviously. And then I stepped in for James. I'm sure you remember James. And did a couple for him. Yeah, so I did a couple for him. And I'm telling you, it was hot. It was sweaty.
It was in a gym, right? It ended up being in a gym.
It was a hell of an ordeal. It was pretty cool, though, seeing, oh, yeah. Yes, It was in a gym. And so you know how it is in a gym, as you know, right? And now take that gym and stick about, a couple hundred people squashed in there like sardines in a line, trying to do your COVID testing, get all that stuff done. And because what they did was, as soon as we walked in the door, they temped us. You had to have a mask on the moment you walked in the door. If you didn't, they got you one. And then they didn't make you wear gloves or anything like that. And then we had, obviously, our what they called media room. And it was just a room that was basically the garage there. And it was elevated. The one thing that I was disappointed in wasn't the fan blowing in the background ruining all the interviews. It was the fact that there was an air hockey table that went completely unused the whole night. Like, why wouldn't we take advantage of the hockey table? That still really bothers me. Yeah, but overall, though, it was really good. A lot of the guys were excited just to get back to fighting. So that was a good deal. But you, on the other hand, were watching UFC 250 in the comfortability of your own pad.
Yes,
I hate you a little bit for that, by the way.
And I kept on sending you. I was like, oh, my gosh, did you see that? And it was halfway through the night I realized that you were busy covering fights in your hometown. Then I felt bad, and I stopped sending you the results. And I can't believe so-and-so knocked that, Well, you're going to have to watch it. You're going to have to watch it.
Yeah, well, it was one of those things when I got back. It was like, okay. And the thing about it is when I got back, initially I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to do a lot of work and da-da-da-da. And I did. I edited 3 of the interviews. I was going to try and get them all done. And then I ended up just saying to hell with it. And then I ended up watching, B. Water. And I was just like, man, to hell with it. I'll do UFC stuff tomorrow. So I really minded my time there, but.
So did you end up watching the Cody Garbrandt fight?
Yeah. I did. I know you're a little.
Knockout.
No,
Could
and you know
be
what?
KO of the year. Could be.
I don't know. I think Sean O'Malley might have something to say about that because both of them were really vicious. Look, that was a superb. I mean, that was textbook, right? Duck and I am coming on. I mean, that was. I want to say Mike Tyson equivalent. That thing was nasty. All right. I mean, I'll give you that. That was nasty. And then of course he snaps the losing streak, right? He from 11-3. Now we're discussing what's going to be next for him. Sean O'Malley was thrown out there, obviously.
For Cody Garbrandt.
Yeah, and I really don't know why, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I don't really know that Sean O'Malley is quite ready for Cody Garbrandt. I would really like to see Cody Garbrandt fight Funkmaster, Aljamain Sterling. I think that would be a good fight.
Well, and somebody's going to pop up and go, well, O'Malley's, 12-0 and da-da-da. But who has he fought? That's the main thing, right? For instance, with a guy like Cody, you can go down the list, or an Amanda Nunes or some other people, and go, they're kind of fighting some big dogs. You know what I mean? Whereas with Sean O'Malley, and then, of course, the other thing with him is, obviously, he didn't fight because, he was off for basically a year. His last fight that he was supposed to be in didn't even go through because...
Was he popped for PEDs?
Yeah, he was popped for PEDs.
Yeah.
So I just kind of... I don't know. I don't know that I really like a Sean O'Malley fight.
Sean O'Malley get some momentum before he tries to fight someone like Cody Garbrandt. But I'm glad that Cody beat that losing streak he was on. That was it.
Well, I don't know if I could say I'm glad, but...
And, of course, he lost to the best. He lost to T.J. Dillashaw twice and Dominique Cruz, who are both awesome competitors.
But see, here's the thing, though. You can't just win one fight and then, be back in it. You and I both know that that's not how the fight game works, especially when you've lost 3 in a row.
Well, no, I'm talking about both of them gaining momentum.
And that
I'm not talking about going after the number one. What?
That I can concede to. If you're going to be talking about regaining momentum, then absolutely, especially for Cody, right? If you're talking about him gaining momentum, I am very much okay with that. But if anybody wants to say right now, well, okay, this puts him back in contention. No, it really doesn't. Not after 3 losses in a row. These weren't, one loss here, one loss there. This is consecutive. That's tough. Don't get me wrong. But there are a lot of guys that, and this, they lose 3 fights in a row. They don't even have a contract to begin with. They're getting cut. So whatever Dana appreciated about Cody, I guess maybe we saw a part of that on Saturday, right? Sean O'Malley's already talked about getting paid what he's worth, what he thinks is fair, right? And he claims that the offer that he made to Dana White wasn't even what some people made in the fights that night, that he was still making less than a lot of them, right? I think Amanda Nunes cleaned as a champion $450K, right? Wasn't that her take home? You've got obviously Jorge Masvidal going in on this whole thing, wanting more money. You've got Dalvin Cook wanting more money, running back for the Vikings. I don't know. Is it fair right now in the middle of a pandemic?
Everybody wants more money, but the fact that you can't even have fans. You can't even have fans in the stands. So all you're banking on is sponsors and pay-per-view money.
Right. And none of that is guaranteed.
I think everybody is going to have to accept that we're in an economic recession right now.
Okay, so then by that notation, is it even fair then for Dana White to ask for money for pay-per-view at any capacity?
Not when he puts on 251 cards. The last weekend, 250, I'll pay for that fight card all day. That was a great fight card. But this 251, I wouldn't pay for it.
Wow. But see, though, okay, so right now, if you're Dana White, what do you think? Because he said he's public enemy number 1. All right, let's try and step into his shoes for a moment. Okay, he says he's public enemy number 1.
Did you see him at the press conference last weekend? He's stressed
that's
out.
What I'm saying.
Dude is stressed.
He's gone right now, man. What did he say? He said that doing this is the hardest thing he's ever done. And he said, remember, I basically took this company when it was in the tank and brought it up to the level that it is now. He's like, think about that for a moment. And I'm telling you, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. So let's put ourselves in his shoes for a minute, right? He's doing everything he can to keep people employed. He's doing everything he can to put on fight cards. He's got the Fight Island thing, which he's supposed to talk about this week at some point. He said he's going to release that information. He won't say anything about it. That way he could get fighters who normally wouldn't be able to fight right now during all this to go ahead and fight. You know, I mean, because he's got a pandemic, he's got riots, right? And then he's got to feed how many mouths right now?
Well, not just that. You've developed these fighters, these hungry fighters that will do anything to get in the UFC, and then you help them get momentum. And I'm not saying help them get momentum, but give them fights that you can sell, and then they develop momentum, and then they start pinching you for more money.
Is it? I mean, so again,
and then they just start strong-arming you.
Right. Because what are they doing? They're taking to the public right now, and they are straight up bashing Dana White. I mean, Jorge, but see, though, here's the weird part, though, because Jorge said, you have the money to buy an island. You can pay us more money. And Dana White said, I didn't buy an island. And he goes, and then like 2 sentences later, he says, the thing or the reason why we're doing the Fight Island. And I'm like, wait a minute. You just said he didn't have one. And then, you know, like 30 seconds later, the thing about the Fight Island. It's so weird right now. I don't know what to think about anything that Dana White is saying.
Well, and then look at fighters like Jon Jones, who are open about their dismay for Dana White, but he still has to keep them because they're ticket sellers. Well,
and they're under contracts. And that's the thing. He called them subcontracted self-employees, which you and I know that's BS.
Yeah, you're not self-employed whenever you have that many restrictions.
Right. I mean, he kind of created this a long time ago himself because, remember, he told these fighters, you can't make independent money outside of the UFC anymore with sponsorships.
Exactly. So if I'm a contractor, why can't I rep my sponsors on my trunks?
Right. I mean, if I am an independent subcontracted self-employee, then that means I am able to take my talents anywhere I choose to. I mean, that's the very definition of it. So again, I mean, it's hard to say because when you start looking at it from all different sides, you go, okay, I get it, Dana. You're super stressed right now because you got to figure out how to keep everybody's bellies full. You're being attacked all over the place. You're slowly turning into public enemy number one in terms of the sports world. And then on the other hand, you look at it and you go, well, how in the hell are you able to do all these other different things? And then you're still charging people the pay-per-view money. So, but then again, is Jon Jones worth $30 million? Think about that. I mean, is he really worth it, though? Because he's had how many things happen outside of the octagon?
And he's been in trouble for steroid use or performance-enhancing drugs.
Yeah. Yes, he's had PEDs.
And he's had to work with.
Trouble with the law. Right. Okay, so would you pay Jon Jones $30 million?
Not at this point.
See? You know, and think about it. As much as I can't stand Daniel Cormier, let's be honest, his Jon Jones fights are both tainted. You know? So, I mean, so what do you do in that division anyways? And I've already said that Daniel Cormier was basically a necessity for the UFC. Because otherwise, who would really be in contention for Jones at all in that division? I mean, think about that. Okay, so, yeah, I don't know. $30 million, you know, and Dana White's already said he's lucky that he's even got a contract with all the crap I've had to deal with him.
Well, and let's be honest, he never wanted Jon Jones to be his title holder. He always wanted it to be DC. That's why he gave him 2-3 shots. I think it was 2.
Right, and he never, you know, and like I said, poor DC, even though, you know, he got beat up the way that he did by Jones, it's tainted. So, I don't know. I don't think right now is a good time to ask for more money. I think what a lot of athletes are trying to do is what everybody wants to be able to do, and that's secure their pockets in case it all really hits the fan. You know, but then again, you're not getting this money up front. So if everything goes belly up, you're not going to get paid anyway. You know, think about it. Dalvin Cook in the NFL, he's saying that he's not participating in anything until he gets a new contract with the Minnesota Vikings with the kind of money that he wants.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even know if there's going to be fans like you made mention of. And one of the things that I've always talked about is, somebody goes, how can Steph Curry make $200 million? What makes him so special? And I'm like, I'll tell you what makes him special, because it's not just the winning. It's the fact that Steph Curry can go and play the Minnesota Timberwolves and be the reason why that stadium is half full in Minnesota, because that's how much he means to the sport of basketball, because people will show up to watch him play regardless. That's the way that it is.
He's got a lot of court appeal.
Exactly. That's what makes, plus, okay, so now you start looking at the talent things. Well, because people like him and they like watching him play and they root for him, they buy his jerseys, they buy his shoes, they line up at the door to get an autograph from him. They watch him on television. And then, of course, when the playoffs are there and you're getting bonus money for being in the playoffs and you're getting bonus TV money for being in the playoffs, people are clicking that thing on just to watch Steph Curry. So TNT and TBS and other networks see him as a money-making machine, and then that helps create the sponsorship that helps generate the revenue to keep everything in that organization in a moving part. So that's the reason why Steph Curry makes the kind of money that he does. It's not just his availability and his value as a basketball player. It's everything else that he does for the organization. He is literally the face of the Golden State Warriors. I mean, right. That's what it boils down to. So when you start looking at the UFC, all right, and you go, is anybody the face of that organization? Conor McGregor, who's supposedly retiring again?
Oh, God. For the 5th time.
Right.
And here's the thing about that. We just came off this 250 fight card. Everybody was hyped about the fight card. What an amazing fight card. And here comes Conor McGregor tweeting, oh, I retired. It's almost like he's the only child, and he's grabbing at your apron saying, hey, I'm still here. Yes, Conor, we know that you're still here. You're still relevant. And I think that's all he's trying to do is stay relevant to the sport.
Well, and then, of course, I'm sure you saw where Floyd Mayweather's like, oh, you don't want to amuse second time, blah, blah. And I'm like, can we not do this again, please? Can we just not? First of all, as much as I, respect Mayweather, I really do. We all know him in that octagon. Are you like for real right now? Do you think he's going to be able to do leg kicks and takedowns and work jiu-jitsu and judo and all those things?
No, and at this point in his career, if he hadn't been practicing ground a long time ago, he shouldn't try it now.
I love boxing for Mayweather, and I think, he already proved his point. You can't just – people think that because you're an MMA fighter that you can step into a boxing ring, and that's just not the case. And I mean, I saw that when I was covering the fights this weekend. There were a lot of guys who do MMA specifically, but because they were desperate to get a fight, they took a boxing match. And I mean, and really quick, let's jump back to that because, again, you've got these guys.
And I think we're going to see that more often.
Wow. Man, I don't know.
I think we're going to see that more often. Right now, everybody wants to fight. There are a few promotions locally that are putting on fights. I mean, we have a few coming up for the next week or two here in OKC. But, I mean, we have tons of fighters. Everybody's looking for a fight. So, yeah, they're going to take whatever they can get at this point.
Wow. Talk about hungry lions, man. But you see, and that's the thing, though, they're putting themselves in danger because you and I both know that training for one is not the same as training for the other. It's just not how it works. And I mean, there were guys that, they had a tournament, right? And a couple of, so what it is one was a boxing match and then it was a bare knuckle brawl after that. So you fought one boxing match and then another, and then your second fight, if you won the first fight, was a bare knuckle brawl in that hot, sweaty gym, and I mean, but there again, you hear that and you think to yourself, Jon Jones wants $30 million and these guys are just trying to take any pro fight that they can.
Right.
I mean, doesn't that raise an eye? Okay.
Because somewhere along the way, as he became popular, I think maybe he lost the love for the sport. Now it's all about the dollar, and we're seeing that predominantly in the UFC. I want to hear more of the backstories of the fighters. I want to see where they came from. You saw Cody Stamann fought this week, and he fought 1 week after losing his brother.
Right.
And it was a good fight.
Yeah, and Joe Rogan was pretty emotional during that interview,
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, look. Let's be a little fair here to McGregor, just in case. Which, by the way, the statement that he made to me doesn't even sound like retirement. It sounds like the kind of frustration that you're actually talking about. And this is very literally what he said. Quote, "They should have just kept the ball rolling. I mean, why are they pushing Khabib versus Gaethje? Back in September, you know what's going to happen in September. Something else is going to happen in September, and then that's not going to happen. I laid out a plan, a method that was the right move, the right methods to go with, and they always want to balk at that and not make it happen or just drag it on. Whatever I say, they want to go against it to show some kind of power. They should have just done the fight for me and Justin for the interim title and just kept the ball rolling." So basically what I hear is he's ticked off because he's not going to fight Gaethje right now, right? And anything else that he's laid out, they've said no. And so now and part of the other thing he was just talking about was sitting around, losing his passion, which was weird for him to say all that because a few hours before he was on Twitter in his garage with pads, putting in some work. I don't know. Does it? A lot of people think this is a power move to get what he wants. Do you think that's what it is?
Of course. I always think it's a strategy with him. I think that everything he does strategically. So that Gaethje fight would be a great fight. Another fight that everyone's pushing for is the Jorge Masvidal fight for him.
Okay, but here's the thing, though. Dana White already said that the winner of Ferguson and Gaethje was going to fight Khabib. Well,
that's Gaethje.
Exactly, right? Okay, so to me again, and when Conor first was starting to come back and all that talk was going to happen, he went on Ariel Helwani's show and he said, I really want my belt back and blah 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 blah, and he just beat Cerrone and okay, and here's the other thing. He accepted the thing with Oscar De La Hoya, who's recalled him out now. He accepted the fight with Anderson Silva, who said that he'd already gone to the gym and started working out, right? Now you got Mayweather saying this guy's name. I mean, it's weird because he's supposedly retired, but yet people are just like, nah, bro. Come here, McGregor. Come on over, bro. It's just like, it's like he's such a cash cow. It's insane. How can one man be so damn interesting that people are frothing over this man? I don't get it.
Well, here we are talking about him right now.
Right, so. For how long? Right? I mean, what makes him so damn special? Can anybody put a finger on it? I mean, is it the TV personality, like you said? Is it?
I think it's that he exudes confidence. And he also said, "I'm looking at this division, and I'm bored with all these fights.
Right.
They've got nothing for me. They've got nothing for me coming up. There's nothing in the works." So, yeah, I think a lot of it came from a place of frustration.
I think it is, too. I think that a lot of people, because what are you going to do right now, right? If you're Dana White, you've got to own up to your word and not let Conor run the show anymore, because he admitted that he did that, right? Do all the stuff that he wanted to do. He went 2 years without defending his belt.
You hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head. He wants to pick his fights. And I'm not saying that he only picks opponents that he can beat, but he wants to pick his fights for his agenda. And I don't think that he's going to give. I don't think he's going to give Dana White the power, to match him.
Man, those two, I tell you what. I mean, But it's like watching an old married couple struggle for supremacy in the relationship. You know, they love and hate each other. It's really amazing. You know, I don't know anymore. Look, for me, the bottom line is I think we all know he's not really retired. I think we all know that. Okay. But here's the thing. If he says there's not a fight out there that makes sense, right? Why would he have accepted anything with Silva or De La Hoya to begin with at all? And, you know, here's the other part. It's obvious that he wants to fight Gaethje, and I get that he wants his belt back, but, bro, you didn't defend your belt. You got stripped of your belt. You held an entire division up so you could go and fight Floyd Mayweather and make this obscene amount of money, right, in a fight that pissed off almost everybody that watched it, okay? Now,
I didn't watch it. I refused to watch it.
Really? You never saw that fight?
I might have saw footage, but I didn't watch it at the time.
No, I know what you're saying. Like, you've seen, like, highlights and stuff like that, but never, like...
Yes.
You didn't take the time to pay the $90, you know?
No, I didn't.
But like I said, it made... Okay, and there you go. I mean, to your point, like I've made mention of before, you're a promoter, you're a trainer, you're a manager, and you're like, hell no. But see, though, here's the other thing. I've talked to other promoters, and they're like, well, if it makes dollars, it makes sense. Okay, but at what point, though, do you have to look at the fan in the same way that Vince McMahon did back in the 90s and just concede defeat in WCW, right, with wrestling and go, stop insulting our intelligence with this good guy, bad guy crap. You know, we're tired of it. Yeah. We know this is entertainment. Give us something that feels authentic. And that's what they did. And you know, the UFC has been accused of over and over again of doing these WWE-style promos, right? Brock Lesnar and Daniel Cormier. Remember that when Lesnar came in the octagon and then, like, everything is all smiles and then he just pushes him, you know, and all this. Yeah. And a lot of people are watching that going, come on. You know, do you really feel this way about him? Like, seriously, bro? You know, so I think that we can't have our intelligence insulted anymore with a McGregor-Mayweather fight. Okay, it's time for, and I said this a couple of years ago, I said that McGregor needs to give back to the sport of MMA. And by giving back, that means doing things the way they're supposed to be done, and that is earn your way back to that belt. And I think Ferguson is the fight for him. If he wins that fight, then he wins the winner of the Gaethje-Khabib fight, period.
Okay. So you don't think at any point he should fight Masvidal?
No. Why? What is that? What good does that do to either one of them? Masvidal's not going to fight for a championship. Okay? He just got jumped. He's not even number one contender anymore. Right? So that happened. And besides, Masvidal's lost, 13, 14 fights, somewhere in that neighborhood? He's not getting any younger. I mean, let's be honest. You know? I mean, everybody gets to a point, right? So let's just keep it all, you know, in perspective here a little bit. If McGregor fights Masvidal, what does that do for either one of them? Other than maybe give them a bigger brand. Does that help the UFC? Does that help Dana White?
It seems like a fight that both of them have been dodging for a while.
Okay, why Masvidal's said McGregor's name, but okay, let's just say that they have been dodging it. Why would they dodge it?
Well, I don't think that it's in Conor McGregor's agenda to fight Masvidal.
No.
I don't think it fits into his agenda.
And again, why would it? But what does it do? Everybody that McGregor fights, he automatically makes a name out of that person. That's all there is to it. Because even right now, and you know, again, there's nothing wrong with being a casual fan, but even right now, okay, McGregor could take the most unknown person, even right now when there's no other sport happening, and go, watch this. It's kind of like those movies, you know, where like the guy or the girl takes like some unpopular person and just by their mere presence, right, makes them like the new most popular person in school. But then they have to deal afterwards with the monster that they created. And that's basically what happened in the case of Khabib. McGregor had to deal with the monster that he created, and look what happened. Talk now, bro. Right? So, I don't know. Look, okay, bottom line here is McGregor next fight for me that would help everybody. McGregor, Ferguson, the UFC, the fans, all that stuff. For me, the next fight is Ferguson. Who do you think?
For me, it would be Gaethje.
Really? Before he fights Khabib?
Is that fight scheduled?
They were talking September, but obviously, Khabib's not fighting anybody right now anyway. He's worried about family, and we all know that. And that's another thing. Like it's being so unfair right now. You know, like just be patient.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, but I have a feeling there's going to be another lockdown around October. We're going to experience the same thing that we've experienced the past few months.
Maybe.
So that's something that we have to keep. I hope it doesn't, but it's a possibility.
Maybe. Who knows? But okay, I think we need to move on from this topic.
What do you think about Amanda Nunes' fight?
Well, first of all, Felicia's got. I'm telling you what. Even though Amanda used her as a punching bag for 5 rounds, the fact that Felicia was standing at the end of that fight, man, she can take a licking. She's tough.
And she hung with Amanda.
I don't want to say the word hung. I'll say she's tough. I will give her that. But you know the old saying, sometimes you have more brains than brawn. Or more brawn than brains. The
other way around, I think.
Yeah, but regardless, what I'm telling you is I'm looking at that and I'm going, it's okay to say never mind. Have you ever just, like you thought you really wanted a piece of cheesecake or something, and then you eat the cheesecake and you feel kind of achy afterwards.
And how hard?
Yeah,
how hard was it to be Felicia Spencer's corner?
Oh my gosh, just watching her take that melee, because that's what it was.
Yeah.
Have you seen?
And we saw in the third there was no coming back.
No.
So she was just. Well, anyway, I'm proud of Felicia Spencer. She did good. So what's next for Amanda Nunes?
Well, she's got 2 belts to defend. All right. And, McGregor, look, that's how much we've talked about him. Dana White said there's always somebody. Okay, but you just picked out a fighter that was 8-1 for a fighter that's had over 20 bouts. So you tell me what's next, bro. The last fight was Kat Zingano. And like I told you off air, I had interviewed Kat Zingano. And I was asking her a couple of years ago, why aren't we talking about you for maybe another title shot? And then, of course, she ended up losing that fight that weekend. So, where's everybody's stock at right now?
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, if you're Dana White, what are you telling Amanda right now?
Oh, what would I say?
Yeah.
Okay. I would tell Amanda that she needs to go back down to 135, stay there for a while. For one, I think that she's more fun to watch as a 135 fighter. She gets stoppages rather than crappy decisions with underdeveloped 145ers. And 145 is too big for Amanda Nunes. She needs to go back to 135, let that 145 division fill back up while we develop these up-and-coming fighters.
Well, that's a really
she's the one to beat. She's the one every female in MMA in America right now, or in beyond, are watching videos of Amanda Nunes and how to defeat her right now. Dana White said it this last week, the hardest place to be is on top. Because people are just sitting by waiting to pick you off.
Amanda seems to know how to deal with it. I mean, I think that's been the difference between her and Rousey and Holm and, Misha Tate. I mean, there's something about her. She just knows how to handle the pressure. I don't know. I mean, really, legitimately, what do you think we could legitimately add to Amanda that hasn't already been said? I mean, right now, she may be the best fighter in the world, period. Not female fighter. Yeah. She might be the best fighter in the world. And I mean, I don't say that to disrespect anybody, but let's be honest. There are some men out there that would not be able to hang with her, period. She is venom. She really is. And it's crazy because, when you see her, she's just as big, and smiley as a Ronda Rousey or a Misha Tate. She's really ultimately just as energetic. She just chooses not to be out there like that all the time. She kind of does interviews that are necessary, and I mean, that's really about it. Yeah, I don't know, man. From what you're saying, what I hear from you is at 145, even though she can bang, she just doesn't have quite the power to put down some of these fighters, and so the fight gets drawn out for no reason, and there's really just nothing there, right? Is that pretty much what I'm hearing?
Yeah, not quite the power. That's not what I mean. She's got the power, definitely. Mm-hmm. But 145 is too big of a division for her. I mean, they're just the people are bigger and broader and taller. I just think that she looks better and more energetic as a 135 fighter. The fights are more explosive. They're more exciting to watch.
Well, regardless, I think, I mean, is it fair, though, to talk about her maybe being the best fighter in the world?
No, right now she's arguably the best fighter of the world. Definitely for the female division. But, we have up-and-coming girls that have to get some fights under their belts that are on their way up. We've got some girls from Oklahoma in UFC, so I'm pretty excited about that. Julia Avila is fighting this week. The Raging Panda.
What do you think about that one?
I'm always going to go for Oklahoma girls.
Yeah, I guess it's okay to have a little bit of a bias from time to time. I mean, come on, if Skip Bayless can, why can't we, right? I mean,
right.
To hell with it.
This is our show. I'll like who I want to
like. Really quickly here, you told me you watched Be Water twice, Bruce Lee.
Yes.
Man, that there were parts of that when I legitimately cried. That thing, and my favorite part was it was towards the end when they showed the movie scene with him and Chuck Norris, right? And the way they correlated it with, Muhammad Ali and him fighting Frazier, and man, that music. And then you've got that Bruce Lee quote where he's like, people ask me if I really am that good. I tell them, if I say I am, you will tell me if I'm boastful. If I say I'm not, then I'm lying. And he said, I'll just say this. I have no fear of an opponent in front of me. That's gangster.
I love that. I love that saying.
Man, that is badass. That's badass.
Growing up, I had to watch every single one of the Bruce Lee movies with my father numerous times.
What's your favorite Bruce Lee movie?
Way of the Dragon.
Nice. Mine's probably Enter the Dragon. I know that seems very mainstream to say, but it is, and I'll tell you why. And this is something that I wish that they would have correlated with. Have you ever seen The Last Dragon? You know what I'm talking about? Bruce Leroy, Sho'nuff. Who's the man? Sho'nuff. Please tell me you know what I'm talking about, Time. You don't know? Oh, okay. So that is your new goal, ma'am, to go and watch that movie. For the people who do out there who do know, that movie, they based a lot of, because that kid, like Bruce Lee was his hero. And so they based a lot of that movie off of, the dragon scene. And remember when he was in, with the mirror and, he was moving his arms, and that was the thing. They couldn't slow the camera down, or they didn't want to. The director said, just do it, man. And that's how fast Bruce Lee really was. And they showed that at the beginning when he was showing these guys how to do that stuff. I mean, Bruce made that move, right? And the guy was like 3 seconds late. Right? And Bruce was looking at me and goes, I'm not going to hurt you. I mean, but every time they would move, it was always late. And he was so fast that his arm, leg, whatever he was using, it would just disappear. And I thought one of the cool things in that documentary that they showed were little things like footwork and how precise he was in everything that he did. Watching Bruce Lee's hands and feet disappear when he moves is practically indescribable to me.
Right.
I don't know.
And how sad was it that he passed 2 weeks before that movie premiere?
Right.
Something he worked his whole life for.
Right. He finally got his recognition, his due.
Right. And then, what did it grossed? What, 91 million?
Right, which in today's economy would have been like 541 million.
Yeah.
Right? So he never even got to see the true fruits of his labor, And that's another thing. I mean, at one point, he couldn't even go back to Hong Kong. So there was a point in time where Bruce Lee's almost a man without a country because he's not really respected in the United States, right? Because he won't play demeaning characters, right?
Even though he was born in San Francisco.
Right. He can't go back. Because, they're telling him, what you think you're Hollywood now and all this. Like, wait, what? So he can't. Can you imagine not being able to go anywhere without being hated? Think about that. The man walked around not being able to go anywhere without being hated at one point in his career. That's a shame. That's a damn shame.
He's probably really a nice guy.
Right. Well, you see the interviews that he did. I mean, he
seemed really humble.
Right. And he was smiling and, come on. I think it's tragic that a lot of times when people are alive, we can't really respect who they are in that time. I equate it to LeBron James. Nobody's going to appreciate him until he retires. I equate it to Kobe Bryant. God rest him. So many people, when you talk about the GOAT debate, you try to bring up Kobe and people would laugh at you. Why does it have to come to that? Tupac's fame, Biggie Smalls' fame. Those guys were big, but come on, let's be honest. They're much bigger. Amy Winehouse, right?
After they passed. Yeah.
Right. Heath Ledger. Do you think that Joker would have been as big as it was, his character, when he was still alive? Think about that.
Oh, that's true.
Think about that. We're so judgmental, and sometimes we as a race, we're disgusting. And I think we could be honest and say that sometimes we're just disgusting, and I feel like we need to really just find that appreciation for people. And maybe Bruce Lee was just too good. You know what I mean? Maybe he was just too damn good, and that was the problem. Kung Fu was his idea. The show Kung Fu was his idea. Did you know that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what happens? He can't even do his own idea.
And then they gave the part to another actor.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't allow a Chinese actor to play a lead role.
Right. I mean, that's foul.
Yeah.
And you as an actor, you're probably not being told this, right? You're not being told, by the way, this was actually Bruce Lee's idea, bro. And even if you were, they're going to wave money in front of you. What are you going to do? Say no? Doesn't it suck?
Yeah, that sucks.
You know, and to hear, you know, I mean, his daughter and that family's been through hell. Lost a brother, Brandon, right? You know, and the Crow, and that, it's just...
On the set, wasn't it? Was it on the set?
Yeah. You know, and I just couldn't imagine. You know, because, I mean, you know, obviously you and I, you know, we've had discussions about the people we've lost in our life, you know, but here's the thing though, we're not famous people. So it's not broadcast to everybody, right? There's not 100 million people that know what Time and Drew have gone through, but there are 100 million people that know about Bruce Lee and his entire family. How do you handle that on top of the pain? Knowing the respect wasn't there before. Jeez. Well, I mean, to end on a sour note, but, you know, I guess you got to...
Well, we have carrying waterworks.
I know, right? Man. Well, I can't wait for next week time. Obviously, I think there'll be a lot more to talk about. All right, everybody. I am Drew Duncan. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan Radio. She is Time Doonkeen. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just look for Time Doonkeen. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram together, Duncan and Doonkeen. We're also on YouTube, Duncan and Doonkeen. And don't forget, we are wherever you are listening to podcasts. So tell your device to play Duncan and Doonkeen on iHeart, Spreaker, Google, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We are wherever you are listening to podcasts. And as always, don't you dare touch that dial.